I never imagined that the night meant to celebrate my sister Amanda would become the moment my entire family turned against me. As I sat in that upscale restaurant watching my 32 years of love and financial support get dismissed with four cruel words, I felt my heart shatter into pieces. The promotion dinner I had secretly funded was about to become the battlefield where I would finally discover who I really was to the people I loved most. But sometimes, the most painful revelations lead to the most powerful transformations. Before we dive into this story, I would love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you have ever felt unappreciated by the people you love most, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real life stories that matter. Now, let me take you back to that devastating evening that changed everything. Growing up as the older sister, I always felt responsible for taking care of my family. My father, Robert, had worked as a plumber for 35 years before retiring, and my mother, Margaret, spent her career as a registered nurse at our local hospital. They were hardworking, salt of the earth people who gave Amanda and me everything they could on their modest incomes. When I landed my marketing manager position at a mid-sized firm after college, making a decent $65,000 annually, I felt it was my turn to give back. Amanda, 4 years younger than me, had always been the academic star of our family. While I was practical and chose a business degree that would land me a steady job, she pursued economics with dreams of working on Wall Street. When she graduated and wanted to attend business school for her MBA, the $70,000 price tag seemed impossible for our family. That is when I stepped in. I remember the conversation clearly. Amanda sat at our parents' kitchen table, tears streaming down her face as she held the acceptance letter from Northwestern's Kellogg School. The scholarship she had received would only cover $25,000 of the total cost. Our parents looked defeated, knowing they could not help her achieve this dream. Without hesitation, I offered to cover the remaining $45,000. I had been saving diligently for years, and seeing my little sister's potential, I knew it was the right thing to do. Amanda hugged me so tightly that day, promising she would pay me back once she landed her dream job. I told her not to worry about it because family helps family. Over the next 6 years, my financial contributions to our family became a pattern. When our parents celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary, I surprised them with an $8,000 renewal ceremony and reception. Every Thanksgiving and Christmas, I would quietly slip $3,000 to our mother to ensure we had the elaborate celebrations our family had always dreamed of, but could never quite afford. When our father fell off a ladder while fixing the roof and broke his leg, requiring surgery and physical therapy not fully covered by his insurance, I covered the $15,000 medical bills without question. When their 40-year-old house needed a new furnace and updated electrical work, I handed over $12,000 to ensure they would be safe and comfortable. I never kept track of these expenses or expected gratitude. Seeing my family happy and secure felt like the greatest investment I could make. Amanda graduated with her MBA and quickly landed a position as a junior analyst at Goldman Sachs. Our parents were over the moon, and honestly, so was I. All those sacrifices felt worthwhile when I saw her success. Fast forward to last month when Amanda called to share the exciting news that she had been promoted to senior analyst with a significant salary increase. She wanted to celebrate with a family dinner at the Metropolitan, one of the most expensive restaurants in our city. Of course, I immediately offered to host and make the reservation. I spent $200 on a beautiful Cartier watch as a congratulations gift and another $400 securing a private dining room at the Metropolitan. I chose my favorite black Anna Sui dress, wanting to look professional and successful for the occasion. As I prepared for the evening, I felt a warm sense of anticipation. Finally, this would be the night when our parents would acknowledge how much I had contributed to Amanda's success and our family's stability. The evening started beautifully. Amanda looked radiant in her new designer blazer, and our parents were beaming with pride. The private dining room was elegant with soft lighting and fresh flowers adorning the table. Amanda had invited two of her colleagues from Goldman Sachs, Sarah and Michael, both impressive young professionals, who spoke confidently about market trends and investment strategies. As we settled into our seats and ordered appetizers, the conversation naturally turned to Amanda's achievement. Our father raised his glass and delivered a heartfelt toast about how proud he was to have a daughter working at such a prestigious firm. Our mother wiped away happy tears as she talked about how Amanda had always been destined for greatness. I felt genuinely happy for my sister. She had worked incredibly hard, and her success was well-deserved. When Amanda opened my gift and saw the beautiful watch, I expected her reaction to match the significance of the moment. Instead, she glanced at it briefly and said, "Oh, you did not have to do this," in a tone that felt surprisingly cold and dismissive. The first uncomfortable moment came when Sarah, one of Amanda's colleagues, asked me about my career. I enthusiastically shared that I managed a team of 15 marketing professionals and had helped our company achieve over $2 million in revenue growth last year. The table fell silent for a moment before Amanda jumped in to redirect the conversation back to her promotion and the exciting projects she would be working on. As the main course arrived, our parents began comparing Amanda's achievements to my own in ways that made me increasingly uncomfortable. Our father mentioned how impressive it was that Amanda would be advising clients on multi-million-dollar portfolios, while our mother added that Amanda's work was so much more intellectual than typical corporate jobs. When Michael asked about my company's biggest clients, I started to share some of the Fortune 500 brands we worked with, but our father interrupted me mid-sentence to ask Amanda about her upcoming business trip to London. The message was clear: my accomplishments were not worth discussing when Amanda's success was the focus of the evening. I tried to participate in conversations about investment strategies and market analysis topics I understood well from my business background. However, every time I offered an opinion or insight, someone would quickly change the subject or politely dismiss my contribution. I began to feel like an outsider at my own family's celebration. The most painful part was watching how differently our parents treated Amanda compared to how they treated me. They hung on her every word, asked thoughtful questions about her career, and spoke about her future with such excitement and pride. When the conversation briefly turned to my work, their responses were polite but lacked the genuine enthusiasm they showed for Amanda's achievements. As dessert was served, Sarah asked Amanda about her long-term career goals, and the conversation took a turn that made my stomach churn. Amanda explained that she was considering pursuing an executive MBA in a few years to position herself for a vice president role. She spoke confidently about her 5-year plan to climb the corporate ladder at Goldman Sachs. Our mother clasped her hands together with joy and said, "Amanda, you have always been so strategic and intelligent. Ever since you were little, we knew you would achieve something extraordinary." She then looked at me with a sympathetic smile and added, "You know, Gloria, Amanda has always been the more academically gifted one. Some people are just born with that kind of analytical mind." The comment stung more than I expected. I had always known that Amanda was considered the smarter sister, but hearing it stated so matter-of-factly in front of her colleagues felt humiliating. I forced a smile and nodded, trying to appear unbothered by the casual dismissal of my intelligence and capabilities. Sarah then asked about real estate investments, and Amanda proudly announced that she had just purchased an $800,000 apartment in a trendy downtown neighborhood. She explained that her signing bonus and first-year performance bonus had provided enough for a substantial down payment. Unable to contain myself, I mentioned that the $45,000 I had contributed toward her MBA education had likely helped her avoid student loan debt, allowing her to save money for investments like real estate. I thought this would be a natural way to acknowledge the financial foundation I had provided for her success. Amanda's response was like a slap across my face. She shrugged dismissively and said, "Oh, that old thing. Honestly, Gloria, I would have figured out a way to pay for school anyway. There are plenty of loan options for graduate students." She turned back to her colleagues and continued discussing her apartment purchase, as if my contribution had been completely irrelevant. Our father then decided to offer his own financial wisdom. "Gloria," he said in a patronizing tone, "you really should think about learning to invest your money instead of just spending it on things. Look at how smart Amanda is being with her finances. Maybe you could ask her for some advice." I sat there in shock, realizing that my family viewed my years of financial support as frivolous spending rather than generous sacrifices made out of love. In their minds, I was the sister who wasted money on unnecessary things, while Amanda was the financially savvy one making smart investments. The irony was crushing. Michael asked about our family's approach to financial planning, and our mother launched into a story about how Amanda had always been responsible with money, even as a child. She talked about how Amanda would save her allowance, while I would spend mine immediately on books or small gifts for friends. The implication was clear. Amanda was naturally wise with money, while I was impulsive and irresponsible. The conversation continued with our parents sharing anecdotes that painted Amanda as the responsible, intelligent daughter and me as the well-meaning but somewhat scattered older sister. They talked about her academic awards, her leadership roles in college, and her impressive interview skills that had landed her the Goldman Sachs position. When I tried to share a story about a successful marketing campaign I had recently led that resulted in a major client signing a long term contract, our father interrupted me to ask Amanda about her plans for the London business trip. I realized that no matter what I accomplished in my career, it would never measure up to Amanda's achievements in our parents' eyes. The breaking point came when our mother started discussing family dynamics with Amanda's colleagues. She said, "You know, it is funny how siblings can be so different. Amanda has always been our little achiever destined for big things. Gloria is sweet, of course, but she has never quite had that same drive or ambition." The casual cruelty of that statement took my breath away. Here I was, the daughter who had quietly supported our family for years, being described as lacking drive and ambition to virtual strangers. I had never felt so invisible and unvalued in my entire life. When Michael politely asked what kind of drive and ambition I had shown in my career, our father answered before I could speak. "Well, Gloria works hard, do not get me wrong. But there is a difference between working hard at a regular job and really excelling at something prestigious like Amanda has done." The word regular echoed in my mind. My career, my achievements, my team leadership, my revenue contributions, everything I had worked for was being dismissed as regular, while Amanda's success was held up as extraordinary. I felt myself becoming smaller and smaller in my chair as the evening progressed. Amanda seemed to be enjoying the praise and attention, occasionally glancing at me with what I could only interpret as pity. She had never defended me or tried to redirect the conversation to include my achievements. Instead, she basked in the comparisons that positioned her as the superior sister. As our father paid the check which I had quietly arranged to cover in advance, he delivered the blow that would shatter my relationship with my family forever. Looking directly at me with disappointment in his eyes, he said, "You know what, Gloria? You are just a big failure." The restaurant seemed to go silent around me. Amanda's colleagues looked down at their plates in embarrassment. Our mother did not protest or defend me. Amanda remained quiet, not contradicting our father's devastating assessment. He continued, "You throw money around trying to feel important, but you will never be like Amanda. At least Amanda has achieved something real with her life. You, you are just mediocre at best." 32 years of love, sacrifice, and devotion had just been reduced to one word: failure. The daughter who had funded their dreams, covered their emergencies, and celebrated their successes was being told she was worthless in front of strangers. The silence that followed our father's words felt like an eternity. I looked around the table, hoping someone would defend me, or at least acknowledge how cruel his statement had been. Instead, I saw Amanda avoiding eye contact, our mother studying her hands, and two uncomfortable colleagues who clearly wished they were anywhere else. Something inside me snapped. The years of quiet acceptance, of putting everyone else's needs before my own, of funding their happiness while accepting scraps of recognition, all came rushing to the surface in a moment of crystal clear clarity. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling, but my voice surprisingly steady. "You want me to stay out of your lives," I said, looking directly at our father. "Fine, I am done funding your happiness, your vacations, and your emergencies." I reached across the table and took the Cartier watch from Amanda's wrist. She looked shocked and started to protest, but I cut her off. "You do not deserve this. None of you deserve anything I have given you." I pulled $50 from my purse and placed it on the table. "That covers my portion of dinner. Figure out the rest yourselves." With that, I walked out of the Metropolitan, leaving my family sitting in stunned silence. The drive home was a blur of tears and anger. I had never felt so betrayed and disappointed in people I loved. That night, I made a list of every financial contribution I had made to my family over the years. The total was staggering, over $120,000 in 6 years. The next morning, I began making changes that would completely alter the dynamic of our family relationships. First, I went to the bank and closed the joint savings account I shared with our parents. The account had been established years earlier, so I could easily transfer money for their various needs and expenses. Next, I called the credit card company and canceled the supplementary card I had given Amanda when she was in graduate school. She had continued using it occasionally for emergencies, which I had always covered without question. The representative informed me that there was currently a balance of $3,200 on the card. I then contacted my insurance agent and changed the beneficiaries on my life insurance policy from my family members to 3 different charities: a local homeless shelter, a literacy program for underprivileged children, and an organization that provided college scholarships for first-generation students. The most difficult step was blocking their phone numbers from my cell phone. I knew they would eventually try to contact me, and I needed time to process everything without being manipulated by guilt or false apologies. I also blocked their email addresses and unfriended them on social media. Finally, I decided to move to a different apartment across town. My current lease was ending in 2 months, and I found a beautiful one-bedroom place in a vibrant neighborhood I had always admired. I did not tell anyone in my family about my plans to relocate. 3 weeks after our disastrous dinner, I received my first indication that my family was beginning to understand the consequences of their actions. My office receptionist informed me that my parents had come by trying to see me, but building security had turned them away as instructed. Thanksgiving was approaching, and I knew this would be the first test of my resolve. For 6 consecutive years, I had provided the money for our elaborate family gatherings. Our mother would spend weeks planning menus and decorations, but the $3,000 budget always came from my bank account. I spent that Thanksgiving volunteering at a soup kitchen serving meals to homeless individuals and families in need. The experience was more fulfilling than any family dinner I could remember. The people I served were genuinely grateful for every small kindness, and their appreciation felt authentic in a way my families had never been. Meanwhile, I later learned from a mutual family friend that our parents had been forced to host a much smaller, simpler Thanksgiving dinner. Without my financial contribution, they could not afford the prime rib roast, expensive wine, and elaborate desserts that had become our family tradition. Amanda, whose salary was substantial but not enough to cover luxury expenses while maintaining her new lifestyle, could not step in to replace my contributions. Christmas presented an even starker reality for my family. Our mother had always prided herself on giving generous gifts to everyone, but those gifts had been purchased with money I provided each December. This year, our parents had to significantly scale back their gift giving, and Amanda was learning that her new salary, while impressive, was already stretched thin by her expensive apartment and lifestyle choices. I spent Christmas Eve at a candlelight service at a local church surrounded by people who welcomed me warmly, despite being a stranger. For the first time in years, I felt peaceful during the holiday season, instead of stressed about managing everyone else's expectations and expenses. As January arrived, I received a promotion to marketing director, with a salary increase to $95,000 annually. The promotion came with additional responsibilities, but also with the recognition I had been craving from my professional colleagues. My new role involved leading a team of 25 people and developing marketing strategies for our company's biggest clients. The success felt especially sweet because it was entirely my own achievement. No one could dismiss it as luck or downplay its significance. I had earned this promotion through years of dedicated work, innovative thinking, and strong leadership skills that my family had never bothered to acknowledge. The first few months after cutting contact with my family were emotionally challenging in ways I had not expected. Despite their cruelty, I still loved them and worried about their well-being. I found myself picking up my phone to call our mother during difficult days only to remember that I had blocked her number. I decided to start seeing a therapist to help me process the complex emotions surrounding my decision. Dr. Patricia Williams, a wise woman in her 50s who specialized in family dynamics, helped me understand that my pattern of financial giving had been enabling my family's lack of appreciation rather than fostering genuine love and respect. Through our sessions, I learned about healthy boundaries and how to distinguish between generous support and financial manipulation. Dr. Williams helped me realize that true family relationships should be built on mutual respect and reciprocal care, not one-sided financial dependence. I also reconnected with Julia, my college roommate who had moved to our city 5 years earlier. We had lost touch when I became so consumed with managing my family's needs and expectations. Julia was now a successful architect with her own firm, and she reminded me of interests and passions I had neglected for years. Together, we started taking photography classes on weekends. I discovered that I had a natural eye for capturing urban landscapes and architectural details. This creative outlet became a source of joy and personal expression that had nothing to do with anyone else's needs or expectations. We also began hiking regularly at state parks outside the city. Being in nature, breathing fresh air, and challenging myself physically helped clear my mind and restore my sense of personal strength. These activities were investments in my own well-being rather than sacrifices made for other people's benefit. My cooking skills improved dramatically when I started preparing meals for one person who truly appreciated the effort. I experimented with international cuisines, took online cooking classes, and discovered that I genuinely enjoyed creating beautiful, nourishing food for myself. At work, my confidence and leadership abilities flourished without the constant stress of managing family financial crises. My team responded positively to my clear communication and innovative project ideas. I led a campaign for a major automotive client that won a prestigious industry award for digital marketing excellence. The recognition from my professional peers felt incredible. For the first time, I was being valued for my intelligence, creativity, and business acumen rather than my willingness to write checks for other people's dreams. My salary increased to $95,000, and I was being headhunted by larger firms who had noticed my award winning work. 8 months after our catastrophic dinner, Amanda appeared at my office building one afternoon. Security called to ask if I would agree to see her, and after some hesitation, I decided to hear what she had to say. She looked different than I remembered, tired, stressed, and less confident than the glowing success story from that night at the Metropolitan. She had been laid off from Goldman Sachs during a company downsizing, and without the emergency fund she might have built, if she had not been accustomed to my financial safety net, she was struggling to maintain her expensive lifestyle. Amanda broke down crying and offered what seemed like a genuine apology. She admitted that she had been jealous of my generosity and big heart, recognizing that her financial success had been built partially on my foundation. She acknowledged taking advantage of my love and said she understood why I had cut contact with the family. A week later, I received a handwritten letter from our parents. The letter was difficult to read not because of the handwriting, but because of the painful honesty it contained. They admitted that they had been wrong to dismiss my achievements and cruel to call me a failure. They acknowledged that I had been the backbone of our family's financial stability for years. Our father had been forced to return to part-time plumbing work to help cover their basic expenses, and our mother was struggling with the reality that their comfortable lifestyle had been entirely dependent on my contributions. They wrote that they finally understood the difference between loving someone and appreciating someone. I responded to their letter with my own handwritten note. I told them that I accepted their apology and forgave them for their hurtful words and actions. However, I also made it clear that our relationships would never return to their previous dynamic. I would not resume my role as the family's financial provider, and I expected to be treated with the same respect they showed Amanda. I agreed to attend a family dinner on neutral ground, a moderately priced restaurant where everyone would pay for their own meal. The conversation was awkward at first, but there was a new awareness of my boundaries and a genuine effort to include me as an equal participant rather than the family's silent benefactor. Our relationship now is different but healthier. I occasionally contribute to family celebrations, but only when I choose to and at levels that feel comfortable for me. My parents have learned to plan holidays and events within their actual budget, and Amanda has developed real financial independence since losing her job and finding a new position. Most importantly, I have learned that love should never require you to diminish yourself or sacrifice your own dreams for other people's comfort. The money I once spent trying to earn my family's appreciation now goes toward my own goals, a down payment for a house travel experiences that feed my soul and investments in my personal and professional development. Looking back on that devastating dinner 8 months ago, I can see that it was actually a gift. It forced me to confront the unhealthy dynamics that had defined my adult relationships and gave me the courage to demand better treatment. Sometimes the most painful experiences lead us to the most important discoveries about our own worth. Today, I am happier, more confident, and more successful than I have ever been. I have learned to value myself as much as I value others, and that has made all the difference. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your generosity was taken for granted? How do you think you would have handled my family's betrayal? I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear this message about standing up for yourself. Do not forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming life's most challenging moments. Thank you for listening, and remember, you deserve to be valued for who you are, not just what you can provide for others. Wishing you all the strength to set healthy boundaries and the wisdom to recognize your own worth.